Okay, recording has started. Everyone, thanks for joining. Sorry for the little confusion here as we're getting going. Apparently, the links for logging in are a little different for us this morning. They weren't working as expected. But welcome. We're going to learn a bit about dynamic number insertion today. We're really excited to have Brett explaining this. Dansie comes to this with a lot of knowledge and experience. We hope we can tell you everything there is to know about DNI. Probably going to have some questions. So at the end, you're going to get a chance to ask those questions. If we can't get to all the questions, we will be able to follow up with you afterwards, and whether it's to a demo or whatever fits best for you, we'll be able to go over that. But without further ado, here's Brett Dansie to let you know all about DNI.
All right, thanks, Jim. I appreciate the opportunity. This is a bit of introduction of kind of who I am and my role here at Convirza. I'm the sales manager here. I've been with Convirza for about 3.5 years now, and so I'm hoping today what we can do is kind of run through some information that is useful to you and kind of how you can use dynamic number insertion in a way that maybe you haven't been using it, or in ways that you could kind of further get more information out of the data that you're currently capturing. So please do ask questions in the question box there on your control panel as we go along. I want to make sure that we answer anything that we can during, and the interaction also helps me know kind of how clear I'm being at presenting the topic. So let me first kind of go in and talk about the challenge. So being in this sales team, I'm on the front line of hearing the challenge that typically a lot of people face. And on a daily basis, I usually will hear things like, how can I attribute, all these inbound phone calls that are coming from people that are landing on my website or my landing pages? Or how can I get a better tracking of the journey that someone takes before they make that phone call, right? Or the question might be, how do I see the complete cycle from start to finish, from the first time they did a search to the first time they found us to the first time they called to when they actually called and then they actually made an appointment and then we actually had a new customer, right? I want to see that complete funnel. That's typically what I'm hearing on a daily basis is one of those two things. I've got this budget, I'm spending it, but I need to be able to show the ROI, and I can't unless I can see, the complete journey of this customer that ends up making a phone call. And so today, what I hope to do is I can kind of show you how it's possible to solve that problem, to close that loop, so that you can have one, better accuracy on what you're tracking, and more confidence that the data you're getting is accurate, and two, that you get more of a complete picture of what's happening with your customers along this journey before and even after they make a phone call. So like I said, there's a lot of different challenges that we face as marketers, and some of it is, I need to reduce my cost of acquiring a customer. Sometimes I need to prove, if I'm an agency, I need to prove value, right, to what I'm, the services that I'm providing. Other times I just need to convert more of my web traffic, and the phone call seems to be what drives revenue for us, right? So there's a lot of different things and challenges that we face in trying to look at this attribution problem, and DNI is kind of one of the tools that you can use in figuring out this attribution dilemma. So kind of just to go back to those that aren't familiar with DNI and what it is and how we do it, DNI stands for Dynamic Number Insertion. So what that means is number swapping, right? So we're swapping out phone numbers on a landing page or a web page to match a unique number that we've assigned to a specific source or specific URL or a specific visitor, right, or session. So what it does is it allows us to have a unique number assigned to those specific things, and then if they call that number, then we can associate it back to that source, that URL, that session, that visitor, right? And so that's kind of what dynamic number insertion is. Dynamic number insertion is used or implemented by placing a little snippet of JavaScript on the web page, landing page, and then it configured inside of your call tracking account, right? So if you have an account with Convirza, it would be, you would set up the settings in Convirza. We would provide you with the JavaScript. You implement that, be it tag container or just hard-coded on there, and then it'll trigger when a visitor comes on. So that's kind of what DNI is and what it allows us to do. The different kind of things that you can do with DNI is there's kind of 4 different types of DNI that you can implement and you can kind of swap numbers out on. So one is visitor level tracking, which I'll be specifically talking about visitor level today and kind of give you more details. The more common type that probably most people are familiar with is source DNI. And what source DNI does is it's just assigning a specific unique number to a referring source, right? So Google organic traffic has a number, or Facebook traffic has a unique number, or Yelp, or whatever it might be, whatever referring source that you're wanting to track, you assign a unique number and it tracks that. And that's the most common used DNI is source DNI, and it's pretty simple to implement. Like I said, it's just one single number for a specific source. The other types that you can use and that are out there are URL or link DNI, and what that is just specific referring URL. You can assign a unique number to that. That's often used in email marketing and display type campaigns. The other type that you can use is what we call session DNI, and session DNI is really good in the page search side. So you want to look at specific numbers per session, and so what happens, someone comes from like Google Paid, each session, each visitor that comes on gets a specific number, and then if they call during that session, we can associate that back to that session ID, and then we can show you, okay, this is the keyword that they typed in that ended up driving the click that ended with the call. And a lot of people will use session for their keyword level tracking with their paid search campaigns. Now, visitor level tracking is very similar to session. The main difference being that on a visitor level, what we do is when, instead of isolating just paid traffic, what we do at visitor level is we create a number pool that is large enough to service all traffic, right? And so it doesn't matter if they come from organic or they come from paid or they come from social. What we do is we assign each visitor a unique number, right? And as they're assigned that, we also cookie that session. So what that allows us to do then is give visitor level data on all traffic that comes and makes calls, because we're tracking it at a visitor level. It also allows us not to be reliant on last touch for our attribution, right? So we can, with the visitor level, and I'll kind of explain this further, we can give you the complete journey of that person from the first time they come to when they finally make that phone call, and that's because we're capturing the GCL ID and we're getting that visitor level tracking data. Because of that, on the visitor side, this allows us to be much more accurate because we're not relying again on last touch attribution, right? We can do first touch attribution and capture the complete visitor journey. So those are the 4 different types of DNI that you can use, and there's use cases, you know, for all of these, right? A lot of the people that we start in the sales process will start just using source DNI because that's just, you just need a basic thing set up, right? Visitor level is typically a use case where people are visiting the site multiple times before they make an action like calling. Automotive is a famous one for visitor level because people tend to go to the dealership site and listing multiple times before they ever make a phone call. And so understanding all the different touch points that attributed to that end action is really important. So there's use cases for all DNI types. It just depends on your industry, your campaigns that you're running, and the granularity of the data that you're wanting to capture on the campaign. So how does it work? First, when a visitor comes on, right, we will run the script, the JavaScript that's on the site. Then we'll go and contact back to Convirza, right? Capture the number that's been assigned to that, and then it swaps it out on the actual page, right? And then as you get multiple visitors on simultaneously, each one gets its own unique phone number, right? So here's, I have an example of 3 visitors on the site simultaneously, right? Each one has been served up their own unique phone number, and now we can capture that, right? So on a visitor level, if this was the first time that they've been assigned or visited, then we would cookie this visit, and this is the number this visitor would be assigned, and that it will continue come back as they come back, right? If they show up the first time via organic search, and then the next time they come back direct, this is going to be assigned, right? So it doesn't matter how many times they come back, this is the phone number that's been assigned to that specific session. Now, if this was a session level, it just would assign this, and then this number would circle back, and when they come back, it wouldn't serve them up. So it depends on the type you're doing, but this is the basic idea behind it, that as the script runs on the page, flips the phone number on the web page, on the landing page, and now if they make a call, we can attribute that back. So why use dynamic number insertion? Well, the main reason to use it is to solve this attribution dilemma, right? Where we often hear, okay, we know that they're going to multiple different steps or different touch points along the way before they make the call. So why we want to know not just the first touch, we don't want to know just this, right? They came direct and now they call, and so we just assume, oh, that is, we don't give credit to all our other ad spend, because if we just did the last touch here, we would assume that they just came direct to the web, and that's what we're giving credit to as far as the inbound call, right? Whereas if we're using DNI and we're using visitor level DNI specifically, what we'd be able to see is that, well, originally they came in from an AdWords ad, then they came in from a referral source, then they came back from a organic search, and then the next day they came back direct, and that's when they made the phone call, right? So this is often most of our journeys if you think about it. Let's, for example, the other day me and my wife were looking for a new dentist to go to. So we did a Google search, we clicked on some ads of some dentists, right? Then we went back and we looked at reviews, and we came back days later, other ways, and we came back direct, right? We do multiple things, and if that marketer isn't tracking all of that, they're going to assume that I never saw their ad, which was the original thing that drove me to make this phone call, right? So that's the attribution dilemma that most of the times the challenge that people are facing is, how do I understand the complete customer journey that led them to this phone call and then accurately attribute all the different sources that I'm doing. Because if I'm not, what I'm doing is that I'm not in my AdWords spend, I'm not attributing this call back to that, right? So I'm shortchanging this and my cost per acquisition and my lead spend. Maybe I'm generating an ROI when I really don't think I am, just by that, right? Here's another example of a journey. You click on a word, you do a search now make a call. In order to capture that, you've got to be able to see the entire journey if you want to attribute all of these subsequent visits, right? And that's the beauty of what we call first touch attribution versus last touch. And that is the real power behind visitor level DNI, is that you're able to capture that. Jim, I want to kind of maybe pause there. Is there any questions on anything anyone's asked up to this point? I know that's can kind of be a little confusing sometimes when I'm on a sales presentation.
And nothing in chat either. So.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'm doing a good job explaining it then. All right. So. And then here's another example of the same idea of the different journeys that we see. Here is what it looks like in real life, right? So what we do at Convirza is that we've captured this visitor level journey, and we do that by capturing the GCL ID, and then we can push that data back into Google Analytics and back into AdWords. So when you look at a report, this is a specific Google Analytics screenshot, what you can see is that complete journey before they made the phone call, right? So you can see here on this example that we have here, this one here, they went direct 3 times, they went organic, they went direct, then they went social, then they went direct, and then they made the phone call, right? And here you got someone that went organic, they went direct, they went paid, they went organic, and then they went direct 2 times, and then they called, right? And so what this allows them to do is now see the complete journey, right? And this is a specific person that they're spending, a significant amount on paid search, right? And what they noticed was, as you can see here, that before they implemented visitor level DNI, a lot of times direct was getting credit for a lot of phone calls that were driven originally by paid search, right? And so when they implemented this, they were able to see, okay, and we were able to attribute all these phone calls. Actually, they had a journey of multiple different touches along the way that allowed, now we can see the complete journey, right? We can now attribute this phone call back to, as a result, not only of the direct visit, but as they went paid, they went organic, and they went social, and then they actually made a phone call. So we can see all those little things that we're working on are affecting what people are doing and why we're having the phone call ring. So what Convirza offers, and this is kind of specific to Convirza and how we deploy DNI, the main reason, and we're one of the only ones that do a native visitor level integration with Google Analytics and with the events and the visitor, capturing that GCL ID, which is really important. So that's the key, and that kind of starts the ball rolling. The next thing, now that you're capturing all this visitor level data, the next thing that you want to do is then create outcome-based call actions. So automation is what we want to do. So now we've got this data, we can capture, we've got all this visitor level data. Now let's create automation from it, right? If this happens, then do this. Send an email, send a text message, send a webhook. You know, create action that's in real time off the data that we're collecting. So now we can not only just be analyzing the data post it happening, you know, 2-3 weeks down the road, but today as a visitor comes on and something happens, we can create automation to that. The other thing that I haven't mentioned yet that is a little unique, when you are setting up DNI, and specifically visitor level DNI, one of the ways that we capture all the data that we do on this visitor's journey is, like I mentioned before, we capture that GCL ID. We can also capture custom parameters that are part of that URL stream. So you can create, like if you want to capture the keyword on the paid, you can append the KW parameter and we can capture that. But any other unique parameter that you're using in your campaigns, we have the ability to flexibly, you know, kind of fit into what you're doing and capture those unique parameters. And that offers you, again, the ability to even get even deeper into that customer journey with capturing more of those custom parameters that are important to you. And then the other thing that I think is really important is deploying DNI. No deployment is the same as the previous. And what I found over the last 3.5 years is I've sold and helped implement a lot of these different and DNI with a lot of different campaigns, is everyone is uniquely different to the way that they need DNI to work. And so being able to be flexible in deployment of how we're doing that is really important. And so that's one of the things that you want to look for is when you think about deploying it, you know, what exactly do you want to capture the data? What's the outcomes that you're looking to get, and how do we need to go about deploying this in a way that makes most sense? And then from there, you can kind of make it work for your specific solution. And so what we found is if you're looking at different DNI providers and implementing DNI, make sure you've got flexibility in that deployment so that you really can kind of match what you're currently doing. And then as those change, especially if you're an agency, as you get different clients, each one may require a little different deployment. And so you'll want to be able to have, you know, flexibility in how you do that. And if you want deeper insights into, you know, the different deployment options that we have and how do we implement all that, I won't get into it here, but that's something we could talk about further. But that is really important in order to you know, have success. Here is kind of what we offer, the features. So it is one of the main things that we've pride ourselves in, and I think is one of the biggest things that my customers see, is that if you implement a visitor level type DNI, what you're going to find is that you're going to capture, about 30 to 40% more attribution, attribute more calls back than what you're currently doing, and that is huge when you're looking to kind of show ROI on campaigns and cost per lead and all that kind of stuff. Getting accurate attribution to all those things and making sure that it's you're not missing or misattributing things is really important. So with visitor level, you get it, create the visitor level DNI that's got the options of, you can, in your pool of numbers, you can have both local or toll-free numbers. You get very, geo-centric data from that visitor because of the data we're capturing, that URL stream, right? DNI works with all your click-to-call campaigns. You can track, first and last page visits on all of your session stuff. So that's when I say first and last page. So when we have the data, you're going to get specific landing pages. So they land on the website and they search various different pages, and then they land on another sub page. We can show you what URLs they all visited to before they made that call. Like I said before, you can deploy DNI via Tag Manager if you use a Tag Manager, so it's simple. It's typically, if you're an agency, that's really important. We can send all the data into Google Analytics, and that's typically, or if you're using another web tracking tool, we typically integrate with most of those also. Google Analytics seems to be the most popular. So that's kind of all the main features that are included with DNI. There's lots of stuff here, like the custom parameters and those type of things that go part of that flexible deployment. So like I said, if you're looking at implementing DNI and campaigns or looking at presenting it to a client or something like that, really the first thing we want to do is just scope out the type of campaign it is, and at what type of DNI works best for this solution, right? Is it we want, we're spending enough that visitor level is really what we need because we want to be able to attribute everything accurately, or is it so basic that, and the budget's so small that just a source-based DNI would work, right? If at all possible and the budget is available, we would always recommend visitor level DNI if at all possible, just because the amount of data that you're going to get from us that we're able to provide back to you is 10 times more if we've got that visitor level journey. But sometimes it doesn't always match up to what you're doing. But that's going to be, if you want to kind of separate yourself from what others are doing, the visitor level really does make a huge difference in accuracy and attributing back, and just understanding the complete journey that your customer goes on before making that phone call. The key benefits, like I said before, average that we see an increase in attribution is about 33%. So you'll see, your attribution back to calls go up 33%, which is huge in most of the campaigns, and that's the main reason why we see most people use like visitor level tracking, is just to get more accurate attribution than what they're currently experiencing. Other key benefits: being able to optimize your campaign spend. That's probably the one that we hear the most, especially on the paid search side. Be able to understand, attribute calls back to keywords that we're bidding on in order to know what keywords to bid up on and bid down on. It's a huge benefit if you're driving a lot of inbound calls from your marketing campaigns, optimizing off of that is a no-brainer. I think, you know, one of the things that I talk with a lot of people about they don't realize is that your inbound calls, and maybe everyone here understands this clearly, most studies that we've done have shown they converted 10 times the rate to sales as any other type of lead, right? So if you're driving form fill leads or other opt-in type leads, and you look at those compared to your inbound calls, you know, your inbound calls are going to convert, you know, 10 times the rate as the other. And so attributing and optimizing for those leads that are by far your best performers is a no-brainer. So, and then, like I said, understanding and visualizing that customer journey is paramount in understanding how all the different things that you're working on as a marketer, and understanding you've got your hand in multiple different things in SEO and social and SEM and retargeting and all that, being able to see the complete journey of what that person is going through before they make that call, and that then they end up converting so high. You want to make sure you understand that so that you can optimize for all of that. So those are the main key benefits that you're going to get by implementing something like DNI. So with that being said, that's kind of wraps up everything that I have as far as what DNI is, why you should use it, and how you could go about doing it. I'll open it up for questions now. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and type those in, and I can answer any questions that you might have. And if I can't answer them, then I'll get back to you as someone smarter than me. But we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. Jim, do you see any questions from anyone?
I've not seen any questions. I've been watching. Nothing's been entered in. So no questions right now, Ray.
Okay. Well, if there isn't any questions from anyone, we'll just go ahead and wrap up. Like Jim said at the beginning, we record these sessions, so we'll post those on our YouTube channel, and so those will be available for you to go back through if you have any questions. And then our team also will reach out to you and see if you have any other interest in learning more about DNI, and if you do, we can set up a time to answer those questions individually for you. So thanks everyone for joining us, and if there aren't any other questions, we'll go ahead and end the session.
Okay, everybody, thanks for joining. You'll get email with the information about the links to the recording, and have a great day.
Thanks.
Ray, you'll have to stop the recording. I can't turn it off.